friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aireonna. The 49ers just lost their preseason game to the Titans, but it's preseason game, so it's meaningless. I'm going to talk about some things that I did find interesting, of things that impressed me and things that disappointed me, mostly stemming off of the reports that we heard from training camp. I want to start with the first impression that I got, which was I really like D Winters, and I feel like the hype lives up in the game. He was fast, he was physical, he maybe got a little bit over his head and missed a tackle here and there, but for the most part, I felt like he belonged. I felt like he looked better than the guys he was out on the field with. Is Campbell really that much better than D Winters right now? I know Campbell's a veteran, but I don't know. I say maybe give the younger guy a chance. I felt like he was extremely impressive, and I would love to see him actually rolling with the starters with Fred Warner, who, knock on wood, no one's talking about it, but Fred Warner has a foot injury that held him out for 2 practices, and then they didn't want to fly him to Tennessee tonight. That kind of scares me. Knock on so much wood, because the linebacker position group is not strong, and Fred Warner has been an Iron Man for the 49ers. With Dre Greenlaw out, he needs someone physical by his side, great in coverage. He can also tackle and hit super hard, but Greenlaw really brought that physicality element. And as a substitution for Greenlaw while he's injured, I think that D Winters did good. Second, I want to say Jordan Mason, which isn't a surprise to anyone. If you've been, subscriber here or to most 49er creators, Jordan Mason has been a guy who everyone has wanted to start. Everyone has been confused as to why he hasn't started. He did come out when they finally, which I feel like is a good sign for him, they let him speak in a press conference, I want to say 3 days ago, and he actually took accountability. He said, I wasn't on the field because I wasn't studying. And Bobby Turner, who's the running backs coach, would call on me in team meetings and I wouldn't have the answer. And so you can tell he's naturally gifted, because even back then he was averaging 6-7 yards per carry, closing out games when the other team knew that all the 49ers were going to do was run the ball, and they still couldn't stop him. He described this offseason, he said that he got a pitching machine so he could work on catching. He's been sitting next to Christian McCaffrey, studying. He said he's totally grown up and really changed and made himself a student of the game, learned how Bobby Turner and the 49ers want you to be a player, not just on the field, but in the classroom, really knowing the playbook. He seems so much more mature. He was owed a lot of props to come out and kind of say that about himself. I also felt like Kyle and Bobby Turner were owed props, because people have been criticizing them for not putting Mason on the field all this time and kind of asking why, and they never threw him under the bus. They never said he's not doing his homework, he's not paying attention, and instead they kept giving him chances, and I'm glad they did, because he described himself as an angry runner, and he ran with such physicality in this preseason game. He looked like a guy who knew that RB2, no offense, Elijah Mitchell, he's injured again, but RB2 is up for grabs behind Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's injured right now, knock on wood, it doesn't last. I know he said if it was a real regular season game, he would have played, but Joe Burrow suffered a calf injury last offseason, and it lasted multiple games in the season. Aaron Rodgers injured his calf and then injured his Achilles, so they have to be careful with Christian McCaffrey, and Jordan Mason is going to be an excellent substitute for RB2. And even if you needed to start some games or just, switch back and forth with Christian McCaffrey so he's not being overworked, Jordan Mason, I think he had 5.7 yards per carry. I think he had 6 carries for 35 or 37 yards or something. But he averaged 5.7 yards per carry in this game against the Titans, and has consistently averaged that or higher in his NFL career. So if he's really bringing in the pass protection and catching element of his game, no doubt to me that he's going to be on the field as a starter, right behind Jordan Mason. Now, secondly, I want to talk about the quarterbacks, because obviously last season, the quarterbacks, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, who's it going to be? Brock Purdy with his elbow injury was a huge storyline. People haven't really been talking about the quarterbacks this offseason, which is a little scary. I mean, the 49ers have had really bad injury luck, and I'm not wishing injury on anyone, but it is important to protect yourself, especially being that I feel like the number one goal, and we'll get there later on, of the offseason was to improve this offensive line, and that, in my opinion, didn't happen much. Especially if you watch this game, the quarterbacks were under immense amount of pressure. And so it's really interesting to me who's going to be that number 2 quarterback. And honestly, both quarterbacks, I put them in the impressed me category, but not in a way that I think that they could, take over a game. I don't even know if they could necessarily win multiple games. I think each of them in their own way could maybe get you through a game if Brock Purdy had a minor injury. But we'll start with Brandon Allen. His stat line didn't look as good. I think it's 7 for 13. But importantly, he had 2 major drops. Tay Martin and Ronnie Bell. He put the ball on the money in the best position possible. Ronnie Bell, dude, no offense, but that guy, I feel like every once in a while he makes great plays that gets you to root for him, and then the ball couldn't have been better placed, and he just dropped it, and then he hurt his back, so I hope he's never want anyone to be injured. But Brandon Allen can't throw far down the field at all, doesn't have a lot of zip on his arm, doesn't even have a lot of power, isn't super mobile, but is really accurate and just kind of like bam, bam, bam. And I think Kyle Shanahan would like that, someone who can just execute the system. You can tell that he's been in the system for a little bit longer than Josh Dobbs. He knows it well. Even in Cincinnati, they run a version of the Kyle Shanahan system, with the coach over there being a product of the Shanahans. So, and he was, for anyone who doesn't know, he backed up Joe Burrow before coming over here. But yeah, I thought he did very well. I wasn't, like I said, he can't throw it far, he can't throw it hard, but he was consistent and got the ball in the right placement. And I think if there was a game that Brock Purdy was injured and Kyle Shanahan could scheme up those over the middle, easy, more gimme throws, he was really good at hitting those. And I think if he had starters like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, if they sign him, by the way, we'll talk tomorrow way more about what's going on with him. It's been honestly exhausting to cover that up and down situation. But I thought that Brandon Allen did pretty good. He was under a lot of pressure and was getting the ball out on time, in the hands of his receivers, or at least in places where his receivers should have caught it. So I thought he did good. And then I also had Josh Dobbs on there. Unlike Brandon Allen, who, like I said, was consistently mediocre. Consistently, you know how like people say, I'm content. And it's like, I'm not great, I'm not fantastic. That's Brandon Allen. He's just fine. He'll do. Josh Dobbs actually has some plays where you're like, oh my God, like this isn't exciting. This is impressive. He had one scramble where he was completely under pressure. He ran away from pressure, got the ball down the field in his guy's hands. He had the throw that you guys are probably all thinking about, where he ran the play where he ended up running for a touchdown when he was under pressure. But the problem I feel like with Josh Dobbs is he had maybe more wow plays, but then that touchdown, which was super impressive, was followed by an almost interception on the very, very next play. So he's more up and down, and I don't know if Kyle's going to gravitate towards that, but if there was a way to harness, like have him make some of his splash plays and then make his other plays more like Brandon Allen, just kind of consistent. Josh Dobbs seemed to struggle a little more with the like gimme plays, like really, really strong with his legs, off the ground movement ability is exciting. And if the offensive line continues to be a problem in the way that we think it is, if the second quarterback was starting, you would think that potentially that would be because the offensive line is as bad as everyone assumes it will be. I might give Josh Dobbs the edge there and let him start be quarterback number 2 behind Brock Purdy, because he has the ability to escape with those legs. I think at least what they should do against the Saints next week is have Dobbs start because they did it this where the first half Brandon Allen, second half Josh Dobbs. I think they're going to let both quarterbacks play again, but I would say switch it up. Have Josh Dobbs start, maybe get a few better players in there if some more players are not injured. They had something like 28 players out today with, I think, 7 not even flying there because they had soft tissue injuries, and you don't want to add extra mileage to those guys when they're trying to heal and reduce inflammation. Flying increases inflammation, and it's only the preseason. By the way, who here is scared about injury? My dad and I were texting, and hopefully it's not 2020, but I don't want to put that out there. There was injuries last year. Maybe they're just getting out of the way in preseason, and the normal season's going to be fine. But anyways, yeah, I think that both Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs seem to be, they could win a game if Brock Purdy goes down. I wouldn't want to have multiple games in their hand. They didn't seem horrible. They didn't overly impress me. But I did think Josh Dobbs had a few impressive plays regarding his legs a little bit more, escapability. I mean, the pocket was closing down on him, and I thought Brandon Allen did pretty good, and that his numbers don't reflect that as much because he had some really bad drops by receivers, even though the ball placement was fantastic. I think that is it for the impressive category. Oh no, Malik Mustafa. Oh my goodness. Malik Mustafa, he's a rookie. This is a big stage for him. I thought he was fantastic. If Huff, knock on wood, I hope that he is able to play game 1. I know that's his goal, but obviously he's coming off that ACL. It's not just can you walk on it, can you run on it, but like can you play like Hufanga on it? So if he needs a couple more weeks to really get back into football shape after being cleared from injury, I think that maybe they should let Mustafa replace him or be in his place. Sorry, there was a dog running over to me and I was trying to make sure it didn't interrupt this little video. By the way, I took my sister's dog out to the park and then realized I wanted to do a little reaction to the game, which is why I'm out here. And the dog is over there making friends and trying to not interrupt my video. Someone's running with my dog, though. Hopefully they don't steal him. I'm very trusting. I'm also not being negligent. It's my neighbor. I know them. Anyways, Malik Mustafa, holy shit, he had a really impressive downhill tackle, just really incredible. I think he could be a freaking guy. I think he could really be a guy. Obviously, we want to see more of him. I think he's going to play next week. One, because just injuries. They need guys to play because they're not going to want to play their starters. But yeah, I hope he continues to flash. Also, I mean, there was rumors before Huff had his injury that they were looking to potentially move on from Huff because he had the all-pro season, and are they going to want to pay a safety that much money? Stereotypically, the 49ers haven't prioritized the secondary or safety position. So, yeah, 4th round pick, incredible player, Malik Mustafa. I think if Huff isn't ready, that he could potentially be a starter. And, yeah, he impressed me. It's only been one game, but all camp, people were saying he's bringing it. He's playing like a starter. He's playing with athleticism. He's hitting hard. And he really went all out in this game. He didn't take this as some unserious preseason game. He was trying to make sure he had a spot on the roster. So now for the disappointing section. Okay, so things that disappointed me. They're going to be obvious. Starting out, penalties. There were so many freaking penalties. Arguably, the 49ers lost the game because they had penalties at the very end. I mean, they shouldn't have won anyways. Also, to be fair, the Titans were playing their starters for the beginning portion of the game, so that did help them. Although the 49ers were up with that Jordan Mason touchdown in the very beginning. But anyways, they had crazy penalties. Penalties have been a problem for this team. They had penalties on offense with false starts, being offline. Also special teams. Dude. Special teams was getting penalties. They were letting the kick return, the whole touchback kick return that's supposed to be, or punt return that's supposed to be all different. That was a mess. Just a new way for the 49ers special teams to let you know that they suck. I think that Jake Moody should just kick it out the end zone and have the other team start at the 30 the whole time, because the special teams cannot tackle. And those guys were getting to the 35, 40-yard line. Like, they were in scoring position just based off special teams. That was embarrassing. I don't know if they're going to clean that up. I know that the special teams coordinator spoke, I want to say like a month ago, because he doesn't speak very often. And he said that they weren't sure how they were going to approach the new kickoff rules. Whatever they did today didn't work, and I hope that they adjust, because the special teams were just as frustrating and as disappointing as usual, which is not something you want to see when they've had an entire offseason to hopefully improve upon that, and they definitely haven't. So special teams was a problem, penalties was a problem, although Kyle Shanahan spoke after in his press conference and said one of the penalties that they got towards the end of the game was because Kyle Shanahan had Clint Kubiak calling offensive plays, and Kyle said he was so bored, because he's always the play caller. He said it's the first time in over 6 years that he didn't call plays, and he was so bored he was watching film during the game, and he was actually standing on the field. So they got a penalty called on for that. But they had plenty more penalties with their false starts and being offsides. So definitely need to fix that up. Then maybe most obviously, before we get to most obviously, I want to say I had Ambry Thomas on here. He had a horrible missed tackle. He's just, unfortunately, like, it sucks because I think so many people wanted him to do well. He showed some flashes his rookie year. He, had that excellent play against the Rams his rookie year. And especially, like, he was doubted, then, kind of came back and made a good play. But he's always just been in position and not gotten the ball, and now it's been multiple years. He hasn't improved. He's still missing tackles. It's really unfortunate. I mean, people were saying, leave him in Tennessee, get him off the team. And so I put him in my disappointing section. I did end up hearing that then he broke his forearm during the game. So I want to wish him so much health. I never want to wish injury on anyone. That totally sucks for him, because I think he knows that he lost his job because he wasn't performing well. He wasn't having a good camp. He wasn't having a good game. He had a horrible missed tackle. And so all that's weighing on you, and then bam, you break your forearm. That has to fucking suck. So I do feel bad that he broke his forearm, and I wish him nothing but health, and I hope he has success in whatever else he does. I don't think it should be cornerback for the 49ers. I don't think he should make the team. They're very deep right now in the secondary, and it just feels unfair to be giving him time above other guys when he's unfortunately not making it. Maybe he'll end up being a practice squad guy. I don't really know where he's at with his contract and how that will work with injury. I'm sure that we'll hear about that tomorrow when we have like a full injury report from Kyle Shanahan once they go back and give him x-rays and stuff. But it is reported that he broke his forearm, but I don't know, are they going to put him on some sort of designation list, or are they going to be able to pay him and cut him? I don't know exactly, but I hope nothing but the best in life for him. But yeah, really, really bad showing, and then horrible that it ended with an injury right after a missed tackle like that for Ambry Thomas. Anyways, then offensive line. I mean, half of my impressive category was just like, wow, the offensive line was so bad and this guy didn't die. Isn't that great? Shouldn't we give him praise? But you would hope that the 49ers, their number one goal, I mean, I feel like they had two goals going into this offseason. Fix your offensive line. Sign freaking Trent Williams. Draft an offensive lineman. Like, it was the best tackle draft class in years. There's not going to be another one like it in years. And everyone was saying, you need to draft an offensive lineman. Dominic Puni did good, but they need tackles. Jalen Moore did okay, but they need more help. I mean, the quarterbacks were getting crushed. I think, like I said, half the reason I thought Josh Dobbs was impressive was just that the line was crashing down on him so much that I thought it was impressive that he wasn't just taking sack after sack after sack, because that's what any other person would have gone through in that stage, because the offensive line was not holding up for him. Even with Brandon Allen, just getting the ball out was difficult. So yeah, I was disappointed in how many sacks the offensive line were allowing and how dangerous it looked for the running backs, for the quarterbacks. Scary times. Dominic Puni did impress. I should have mentioned him. He did impress. I think he'll start next game too. I'm interested in if that will continue. I thought he did good. I was very disappointed in Kyle Shanahan in his post-game press conference said that he doesn't watch offensive linemen. He doesn't watch them. He only notices if they're called for a penalty, and then he knows that they did something wrong. But if they're not called for a penalty, he doesn't like to pay attention to the offensive line. What? You're the head coach. What? So all those plays where your quarterback is almost getting tackled, if there's no penalties or no, play called, you just tune that out. You're like, oh, that doesn't matter. My quarterback almost died. That doesn't matter. Like, that absolutely needs to matter. You might pay Brock Purdy $65 million next year if he doesn't freaking break his other elbow this year because he gets injured, because his offensive line sucks. So yeah, that was a really big issue that they needed to address this offseason. They did draft Dominic Puni, who looked good, but they need way more reinforcements, and they need to sign Trent Williams. So both signing Trent Williams and then I guess next year adjusting the offensive line even more is going to be important. It'll be interesting to see what goes on with that. Their second thing that they needed to do was sign Brandon Ayuk or figure out that they were going to trade Brandon Ayuk, but they should have done that before the draft. Doesn't feel like they're doing that now. Will they get a deal done? I'm not sure. Last night it was reported that they've opened contract talks with Brandon Ayuk once again. Last time they talked, supposedly has been reported that they offered him $26 million per year, and they haven't renegotiated that since May. The Patriots were offering Brandon Ayuk $32 million per year. He said no to them, and the Browns supposedly had a deal done with the 49ers where they were going to give the 49ers a future pick and also Amari Cooper, and they were going to pay Brandon Ayuk around $30 million per year. But Brandon Ayuk said no to that deal because he doesn't want to go play for the Browns / play with Deshaun Watson. Don't blame him on that one. But Brandon Ayuk supposedly only wants to go to the Steelers, but the Steelers don't want to give up as much for Brandon Ayuk. Now his wide receivers coach that he trains with outside of the 49ers did go on 95.7 The Game earlier this weekend and said that BA is willing to accept $28 million, which is market value for a second wide receiver, Jalen Waddle, and Moore. Jalen Moore, is that the right name? Yes. Just their second string, wide receivers are not even true number ones. They don't put up as good of numbers as Brandon Ayuk, and both of them have 28 average per year. So if Brandon Ayuk is really willing to take a pay cut to stay with the 49ers, and the 49ers have already offered him $26 million, and then their only difference is $2 million apart, I would say freaking bump that up, because I think Brandon Ayuk being on the team gives you a better chance at winning the Super Bowl, and winning the Super Bowl should be your number one goal, especially while Brock Purdy is still on his rookie contract. You can even move off of Debo next year if you want, or you could restructure it. And honestly, you could have Ayuk at 28, because that's still not that much with the cap going up, and extend Brock Purdy, because they can still make his cap hit yearly in the beginning low. Anyways, if they need to get a deal done sooner rather than later. I don't know why they didn't have that done before the draft, but if Brandon Ayuk really is willing to take 28, I think the 49ers need to get that done now. They're going to Irvine this week for joint practices with the Saints before the preseason game, and I would love it if Brandon Ayuk was on the team practicing, getting in football shape before September 8th, which is against the Jets, week 1, September 8th, September 9th. Week 1 against the Jets is coming up very soon, and we've seen with Debo, with Nick Bosa, that these guys really need camp and they need practice. They can't just weight lift or run on their own. They need to be practicing with other football players, getting in football-specific shape to make an impact. And I think Brandon Ayuk being on the team helps the 49ers win a Super Bowl, and they should get that done now. Also, like I said, offensive line, hugely disappointing. If they don't have Trent Williams on the team, they're not even going to make the playoffs. Screw the Super Bowl. Screw Brandon Ayuk at that point. they need fucking Trent Williams immediately. I don't know what they're doing dilly-dallying with that. I think reports aren't even really coming out about it. I guess people just assume they're going to get it done because when Trent Williams says jump, the 49ers should just say how high at this point because they haven't drafted anyone to replace him. The rest of the offensive line is barely serviceable. So, yeah, they need Trent Williams immediately. They should get both of those guys signed as soon as possible. But, yeah, it was a fun game. Football's back, preseason. I don't know. What'd you guys think about it? How'd you feel? I thought at the very end maybe they could make a last-second push to win it there. But I'm not mad at Josh Dobbs for not being able to do that. I thought he did decent given the circumstances. Like I said, didn't hugely impress me. Was Sam Darnold that much better than them, that much worse than them? I'm not sure. I guess that second QB will be an issue if there's any sort of long-term injury. But hopefully they sign Trent Williams. That offensive line gets some more work together. Like I said, Pooney did impress. So hopefully they get that line together. They protect their quarterback. And yeah, have a good time. But anyways, those are my immediate takeaways. I wanted this to be really short, but I ended up chatting for a long time. I'm going to get my dog, go back inside, but I will be going live tomorrow. I think I'm going to be doing a call-in if I don't do a stream with Marco because he's been very busy with work. So make sure to like, subscribe, and if you want, hit that link button. Tomorrow's Sunday because today's game was on a Saturday. So I might go a little bit earlier. I know there's a Trey Lance versus Jimmy G game going on tomorrow, preseason football at its finest. So maybe I'll try to do it before that and see if you guys have any more takeaways. But yeah, hopefully I didn't miss anything. Those were my impressive takeaways and things that disappointed me. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Bye.